Should we repeat it or just?
Again,
Okay,
it's for your preference.
Okay, I'll just read the translation.
Sure.
Okay, I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady, so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, if a person desires to have material enjoyment and wants very sincerely to have such facilities from the material demigods, the Supreme Lord, as Super Soul in everyone's heart, understands and gives facilities to such persons. As the Supreme Father of all living entities, He does not interfere with their independence, but gives all facilities so that they can fulfill their material desires. Some may ask why the all-powerful God gives facilities to the living entities for enjoying this material world, and so lets them fall into the trap of the illusory energy. The answer is that if the Supreme Lord, as Super Soul, does not give such facilities, then there is no meaning to independence. Therefore, He gives everyone full independence, whatever one likes. But His ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad Gita. One should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto Him. That will make man happy. Both the living entity and the demigods are subordinate to the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, the living entity cannot worship the demigods by his own desire, nor can the demigod bestow any benediction without the Supreme Will. As it is said, not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Generally, persons who are distressed in the material world go to the demigods, as they are advised in the Vedic literature. A person wanting some particular thing may worship such and such a demigod. For example, a diseased person is recommended to worship the sun god. A person wanting education may worship the goddess of learning, Saraswati. And a person wanting a beautiful wife may worship the goddess Uma, the wife of Lord Shiva. In this way, there are recommendations in the Shastras, Vedic scriptures, for different modes of worship of different demigods. And because a particular living entity wants to enjoy a particular material facility, the Lord inspires him with a strong desire to achieve that benediction from that particular demigod, and so he successfully receives the benediction. The particular mode of the devotional attitude of the living entity toward a particular type of demigod is also arranged by the Supreme Lord. The demigods cannot infuse the living entities with such an affinity, but because He is Supreme Lord, or the Super Soul, who is present in the hearts of all living entities, Krishna gives impetus to men to worship certain demigods. The demigods are actually different parts of the universal body of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, they have no independence. In the Vedic literature, it is stated, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as Super Soul, is also present within the heart of the demigod. Therefore, He arranges through the demigod to fulfill the desire of the living entity. But both the demigod and the living entity are dependent on the Supreme Will. They are not independent. Yo yam yam tanum bhakta shradayarchitum ichchati tasya chalam shraddham tam eva vidadhami aham. I am in everyone's heart as a super soul. As soon as one desires to worship some demigod, I make his faith steady so that he can devote himself to that particular deity. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshtarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurun Dinatarinam. Hare Krishna. It was such a wonderful kirtan, and now we feel very inspired to talk about Krishna. So, the three main features of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's philosophy, we just celebrated Gaur Purnima. And of course we know they are Sambandha Vidya Prayojana. These are the main teachings of the Vedas, which means what is the relationship between the soul, God and material nature, what is the ultimate goal of life, and how to attain this goal. These are the three great riches of the Vedas. But we can also they can also be explained in different way. As Nama Ruchi, this is the first main teaching. Nama Ruchi means taste for the holy name. Just like we experienced, I believe, while chanting, we experienced that we are in contact with Krishna. To a certain degree, of course, there are different varieties of experiencing this contact, higher and lower. And then there is the Vaishnava Seva, which means service to the devotees, service to Vaishnavas. And then Jiva Doya, which means after you experience this taste, after you experience this happiness, bliss, then you try to share with others, try to be merciful, to give the mercy to other living entities, to conditioned souls. Of course, we are all conditioned souls. Hare Krishna. So, this is also mentioned, if you remember, in Srimad Bhagavatam, in the Hare Krishna, in the first canto, there is this verse, Shushrushoshra Dadanasya Vasudeve Kataruchi Syan Mahat Sevaya Vipra Punya Tirtha Nishevanat, which means all twice born sages, by rendering service to the great souls, great service is done, and by such a service, one develops desire to hear the messages of Vasudeva. So by rendering service to the great souls, one develops taste for hearing and chanting about Krishna. So we can say, I cannot hear and chant, I don't have the taste, I'm not spontaneously attracted. But still you can render service, and there is no excuse from this one, because we are all naturally servants. We are servants right now. It's just a matter of redirecting our service to the proper object of service. And then by serving Srila Prabhupada, the great devotees, then we will develop this taste. There is also a verse in Bhagavatam, Mahat Seva Dvara Ahur Vimuktesh Damo Dvaram Yoshitam Sangi Sangam. By serving the great souls, Mahatmas, then the doors of liberation are opened. And if we serve our lower nature, lust, greed, anger, envy, etc., then the doors to hellish life are opened, wide opened. So the chanting of the holy name, this is the Yuga Dharma that has been given to us by Mahaprabhu and reconfirmed and introduced to the Western world by His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. This is the way by which we can come in contact with Krishna. And if we try to explain it as a deal, we have our part of the deal, and then Krishna will fulfill his part of the deal. So our part of the deal, we have to come in contact with Krishna. And as Srila Prabhupada explains here in the purport, God has given independence to everyone. Therefore, we have independence. So Krishna cannot force us to want to love him. He cannot force us to, he doesn't want to force us to chant the holy name carefully with attention. This is our part of, this is our duty. We have to make sure that we listen carefully when we chant the holy name. This is just like if you want to take advantage of the sunshine, then you have to come out of the house and expose yourself to the sun. Then the sun will do the rest. But if you stay inside, if we stay inside our material mind, so to say, and we never go out, we never hear the holy name properly, then we cannot come in contact with Krishna, actually. Sometimes people chant the holy name for many, many years, and we sometimes may happen that we have never heard the holy name properly, and we stayed always in a shadow, so to say, of our mind. We're always in contact only with the mind. We kept hearing the thoughts of our materialistic mind. There is a verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita, which we repeat quite often in the mornings. Bahu janma kare yadi shravana kirtana tabu tanapaya Krishna pade premadana. If the chanting is infested with the 10 offenses against the holy name, then one may chant for millions of births, he will never attain Krishna prema. So this is our part. We have to listen carefully when we chant the holy name, we have to listen to the transcendental sound. This is Srila Prabhupada's advice. There are so many different techniques one can use. Many devotees now, they make workshops on the holy name. And they have different advices. But Srila Prabhupada always kept giving one very simple advice. You just chant and hear carefully. And when we start to do this, then we will notice that the holy name is very sweet. And when it enters our ears, if we allow the transcendental sound, if we are not closed, then the holy name will enter deeply and will reach our heart. And then Rupa Goswami explains how the devotee, when he chants, he's like a miser who found a great treasure. And he is very careful not to waste even Srila Prabhupada used to say, even a farthing or shilling, even a small coin of this, in a sense that the devotee hears very carefully every syllable, every name, and he doesn't want to be losing anything. Hare Krishna, everything is so precious to him. So by hearing carefully, then we'll notice first how our heart becomes peaceful, because Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita, Ashantasya kutasukam, there is no happiness without peace. First you have to be peaceful, then you can think about happiness. And then once you're peaceful, then the real positive transcendental bliss will gradually arise in the heart. In the Nectar of Devotion, it is explained that the first two characteristics of the pure devotional service are Subhada, the beginning of all auspiciousness, and Kleshagni, which means the destruction, eradication of all suffering. So this is what will happen if we chant carefully. We know from Bhagavatam how Lord Brahma, he has to recreate the universe every single day of his life. Because during the night of the Lord Brahma, then there is a partial devastation of the universe. And then when he wakes up, he has to meditate and create part of the universe again. So, believe it or not, we are doing the same every day with our own small universe, because we are living inside this, Srila Prabhupada says, tabernacle, like this machine. Universe is also a machine. And we are living in the mind, so to say. So every morning we have to, first of all, clean up our room, clean up the place where we're going to stay the whole day. And this is done by, as possible, as early as possible, by chanting the holy name. And then in India they have these mosquito repellers that you plug it in a yes. And then in the ads, in the package it says all out. That means all mosquitoes out. So the same thing happens. It's supposed to happen in the morning. Everything has to get all garbage, because living in the material world, means constant contamination. We're constantly contaminated. Our body, not the soul, but the body and the mind. So believe it or not, but every morning we have to clean up very carefully our consciousness again. And then only the holy name should remain. And then the holy name will get rid of all dirtiness. But we have to allow this to happen. So in the same way, just like Lord Brahma creates the universe, we have to create our own universe every day. We should not be lazy. We should clean up every morning our place. We're gonna live there. This is our place. Krishna has given us this place, this mind, this consciousness. We have to clean it up carefully, and then we can hope that Krishna will desire to appear there. If you want to invite some very important guest, you have to clean up your room, your house. Otherwise, it's disrespectful, and probably he won't come second time. The attention is very important, because the attention, where our mind goes, this is the flow of consciousness. Our consciousness flows towards different directions, and by fixing our attention to in certain direction, we create our present situation. Like right now, we are in this transcendental place, but we can be thinking about so many things. Our mind could be repeating some old happenings. We can be thinking about the future, but right now we decided that we're going to focus on the transcendental sound. So this creates our present situation, and also creates our future. There is one writer, he said, whatever one does now, it echoes in eternity. So whatever we do now will determine our future. And this is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. Whatever state of mind one remembers, state of existence one remembers at the time of death, this will be his future situation, without a doubt. So whatever we think now, it is not. It actually has serious consequence in future. So I just wanted to share a few things, because lately I'm trying to focus more on my japa, and these are some things that I wanted to share with you. And regarding this verse, so Hare Krishna, it's a very interesting verse, one of my favorite verses, because if you think, most of us, well, some of us, not most of us, some of us, we grew up in this Judeo-Christianic environment, and we have some idea about God being the jealous and angry God. You should not have other gods than me, and if you do, then God will punish you. Typically, He'll punish you by striking you with a thunderbolt, and there will be some small piece of ash remaining from you. That's it. So here Krishna says something different. He says, I'm in everyone's heart as a super soul, and if you desire to worship some other personality, it is me who will make your faith in this other personality stable. Because if our faith is not stable, we cannot continue this worship, and there won't be any tangible result. So Krishna is not angry and jealous if you want to worship somebody else. That's the first thing that's very striking. He doesn't suffer from this insecurity syndrome that, he's not jealous. Why these people are not worshipping me? Krishna says that such persons, on the contrary, they can advance in life. In Bhagavad Gita also, Krishna says, Urdvam gachanti sattvasta. If you develop the mode of goodness, you will advance in this universe. You cannot attain liberation, or you cannot attain Krishna by the mode of goodness, but nonetheless you will go up. Of course, going up, also Krishna says, it's just a stage, just a temporary situation, because after going up you will have to go down. Because also in Gita, Krishna says, in the material world, just like every fire is covered by smoke, every endeavor is covered by mistake. And sooner or later you will have to commit some mistake, and then that means you will have to go down. But still, Krishna doesn't hate people who worship other persons. He's quite liberal in this sense, magnanimous. And this also Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Yepi anya devata bhaktya bhajante shradadam vidha tam epi mama tam eva mam eva apikantya bhajante avidi purvakam. Those who worship other gods, small g, not the Supreme Lord, they're actually worshipping me. But they do it avidi purvakam. They do it with improper, they do it in an ignorant way. Srila Prabhupada gives the example, instead of pouring water on the root of the tree, they're trying to satisfy the leaves, the branches, etc. So this is not very sanguine. Srila Prabhupada uses this term. But Krishna says they're actually worshipping me. So this idea of the jealous and angry God who is angry doesn't apply to the Supreme Lord, actually. But it can apply to the demigods. For example, we know the stories about Indra. When Indra found out that the Vrajavasis, they're worshipping somebody else, not him. They were supposed to worship him. They had this tradition that they worship him on this date, on this occasion. But now they worship somebody else. He became jealous. He became angry. And he tried to wipe them out. He called for the Samvartaka clouds, and there was a great inundation in Vrindavan. And of course, Krishna saved the Vrajavasis. And then Indra came back to his senses. And he prayed for forgiveness. But later on, when Krishna went to the heavenly kingdom, and he wanted to satisfy his dear wife, and he requested for the Parijata tree, which is famous, but it's in heaven. Then Indra refused. And there is one Shastra where Indra explains why he refused. I don't remember exactly, but I read this recently. And Indra says, it's not that I'm inimical to Krishna, but look, there are rules. And the rule is that the Parijata stays only here in heaven. That is the rule. The rules are here to be followed. And also, Krishna seems to be just a hand-packed husband. He's just under the control of his wife, which actually was the case of Indra, not of Krishna. So Indra in this scenario, in this case, he's a very vivid example of what Rupa Goswami explains in Upadeshamrita, Niyamagraha, following the rules without knowing why you have to follow the rules. So there is the rule, but the goal of the rule is to please Krishna. And Krishna himself comes and he requests you for this plant, and you're supposed to give it to him. No, Indra became jealous, he became angry, and then he induced all the demigods, they fought against Krishna. So again, he came back to his senses. And also Brahma. When Brahma had some doubts, he saw that Krishna is worshipped. He was not sure whether Krishna is the Supreme Lord, so he decided to play this trick with Krishna. So there are examples how the demigods are jealous when somebody else is worshipped and they can become angry, but not the Supreme Lord. Krishna is, as here it is stated very nicely by Srila Prabhupada. Therefore, he gives everyone full independence, whatever one likes. But his ultimate instruction we find in the Bhagavad Gita. One should give up all other engagements and fully surrender unto him. That will make man happy. So here we have Srila Prabhupada very brilliantly and in a very simple way explains something very sophisticated, and we can miss it. It is the fact that the Vedic philosophy and culture is simultaneously very liberal and inclusive. Nobody is excluded. Everybody can take part of it. At the same time, it is not yatamat tatapat. That means the ultimate goal is very clearly defined. The ultimate goal is pure devotional service, and there is a strict definition. But at the same time, nobody is excluded. Everybody can take the path. Usually, people and philosophies and doctrines, they are either liberal, therefore you have liberals and conservatives. But Krishna consciousness is the golden middle. It is both. Therefore, in Bhagavatam, you have these verses, for example, Vadanti tattva vidas tattvam yach jnanamadvayam brahmati paramatmati bhagavan iti shabdyate. There are different concepts about absolute truth. And no matter where you start, you can still reach Bhagavan. And also in second canto, we hear how people worship the universal form. They're also not excluded. This is also accepted. You start wherever you want to start, but the goal is clear. There is no compromise about the goal. So why people are worshipping demigods? Here in this verse, Krishna explains that that's another interesting thing, is that Krishna makes their faith steady. Krishna gives them actually the reward, the blessings. Demigods don't have the power to give independent blessings. They can only give whatever they're given by Krishna. So why people worshipping the demigods? Why they don't worship Krishna? Well, of course, in the West we don't so much see demigod worshippers. But in other parts of the world, Krishna explains that people who have too strong material desires, he says they are bewildered, they are maddened by lust. So they want fulfillment of their desires to happen immediately, yesterday, if possible. And they know that demigods, they fulfill their material desires if they are worshipped properly. And also they know that Krishna doesn't do that. There is a difference between Krishna worship and demigod worship. The demigods, they just reciprocate as you approach them. If you perform the ritual, if you have the proper mood, they will give you whatever you deserve. Krishna is not like that. He will give only what is good for you, what is good for your ultimate or good fortune. There are two things, shreyas and prayas. Shreyas means the ultimate benefit, and prayas means immediate benefit, which is temporary. Well, Krishna, he himself says, if somebody prays for material things, if somebody is so stupid that he comes to me and he prays for material things, I'm not so stupid. Why should I fulfill these material desires? I would rather act in such a way that he doesn't have any more material desires. So therefore people are afraid to pray to Krishna because they don't know what will happen. Krishna sometimes he fulfills desires, sometimes he takes away also whatever you have material. But people are afraid. They prefer, it's more secure. You worship the demigods. It's more safe. Acharyas explained that to compare Krishna to a desire tree is only partially correct. Because the desire tree, you approach the desire tree, you have the desire tree fulfills your desire. Krishna is not like that. He will fulfill the desire if he deems it appropriate for you, if it's actually good for you, just like the father. The father doesn't just fulfill any desire of the son. So demigod worshippers, they are settling for some inferior results. They want something which will be temporary and something which is limited. Therefore, it is a bad deal. It's a bad bargain. So better approach the Supreme Lord and get eternal result. And also the maybe the last thing I wanted to mention is that here in this verse we're talking about karma. So these are karmis. Karmis means, on the previous verse, kamaistai starhrita jnana. Those whose intelligence has been stolen by material desires surrender unto demigods and follow the particular rules and regulations of worship according to their own natures. So here we're talking about karma. Karma means pious people who have material desires and they want to fulfill those desires according to the Vedic injunctions. So all these people, they don't really want to have close connection with the Lord. For them, God is just like provider. They acknowledge that He exists, but they're not really interested in establishing sambandha, relationship with Him. Why do you need a relationship with the clerk there? You just go there, you submit your, what is it, mulba?
Request.
Your request, and then the guy, you fulfill all the, thank you, all the requirements, and then the guy just signs it up, and you get what you want. So why you have to have anything to do with this guy? So this is what they think about Krishna. Okay, there is Krishna, there is God, but the important thing is my material life here. The most important thing is that my senses must connect with the sense objects. That's it. And anything that helps me to attain this goal, I welcome. Anukulasa pratikulasa anukula varjana manukulasa sankalpa. Anything that is helpful, even if it's worship of Krishna, I'll accept. And still, they are not really devotees of Krishna. And the thing is, if you have this mentality, then you have to settle with formal, routine, and tedious religious practice. You won't be able to get satisfaction from this practice. It will be just a ritual, many rituals that you'll have to do over your life to attain this and this goal. But although you have to be focused on these rituals while you're doing it, actually in the back of your mind is, my real life is here in the material world. This is my real shelter. This is my real home. I want to be happy here. This is called griha vrata, griha vratanam. And then the religious experience that you get will be very, very meager. There won't be strong attraction to Krishna because you don't want to be attracted. And we'll have to be trapped here in the material world. Here we will try to find satisfaction of our desires, of our emotions, our needs. And the only remedy for this is to have personal conception of the Lord. If you understand the concept of Bhagavan and that Krishna is the all-attractive one, and if you perform bhakti, pure devotional service, then you can hope that Krishna will, you feel attracted to Krishna, spontaneously attracted. And then this is the only way by which we can be taken out of this material experience. So unless we have personal concept of God, if we are impersonalists, if we are just formal religionists, then we'll have to remain in the material world. Although we are pious people, we may be pious, we may be even devotees to some extent, Mishra Bhaktas, mixed devotees, but we'll have to stay here because we don't get this, like we spoke in the beginning, this strong spiritual experience, this attraction, spontaneous affection for the holy name, for Krishna. Until we get this, we'll have to try to find our satisfaction here in the material world. So this is the challenge for us. Therefore, we have to be very active dynamic in our spiritual practice, in our chanting, because we have limited time in this body. We're walking now and in the subway. We saw this. There is one person who always plays drum. He's like street musician. subway musician. And basically the same beat. That's what he does. And then people give him some donation. So every time, since years, we are passing by, and every time he's there. And it's kind of spooky experience, because this is like a, like the time is ticking. And anytime you go there, you are aware again that the time doesn't sleep. There is this in Krishna book, in Bhagavatam, there is description of Jalabharata, when his father tried to educate him in Vedic knowledge, in Vedic culture. And it said there that the father, this Brahmana, was very nice Brahmana, Paka, but he was attached to his family and to his material life. So much so that he forgot about that. But that did not forget about him. That's the thing. We may forget, that's what happens. But then you pass by and the guy is, I'm there. And you are a year older now. Have you developed a little more attraction to Krishna? Because this is what counts. Are you closer to Krishna, or you are still on the same place like a year ago? Therefore, this is constantly we have to remember. That's why we try to live healthy life. We try to maintain this body, because it gives us a little more time, hopefully, to develop Krishna prema. At least, okay, maybe not Krishna, but at least to, I don't know, Nishta, to remain on the level of Nishta, to be engaged in devotional service. And in order for this to happen, we have to experience this spiritual taste. My guru, he says that every devotee needs this personal victory in his life, in her life. That means when you have some difficulties, you just have to sit down and chant the holy name, and then all these problems, they supposed to fade away from your consciousness, and just by chanting. So every one of us, we need to experience this. Just by chanting, that we overcome our problems just by taking shelter of the holy name. Just like, again, this kirtan when we had now. It was a very palpable experience. We're up to something. We may be not on the level of prema or bhava, but it was definitely spiritual experience. So we need more of those experiences, and they have to become more and more dynamic and strong. And then finally we'll be able to get off the hook, get out of the matrix of this material mind, material consciousness, and we'll experience a revolution. This is what Bhagavatam is all about. Bhagavatam is meant to create a revolution in the sinful life of the modern civilization. That's what Bhagavatam is all about. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. So, yes.
Yes. Well, I'm not so good at speaking, so I hope I don't want to offend. So because I'm not so good at speaking, so sometimes when I speak, it's like I offend, but I don't mean to offend. So may I get your blessing? I don't. I speak properly without offending. Well, we all know that Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead, and he has spent himself in different. He take different form, different name, and he come at different time, and we speak according to the time, the place, and the still constants. So should we compare the word jealousy and envy to the same as we express it here, as we understand it here? Like we can see that when Srimati Radharani and Krishna sometimes exhibit jealousy and anger, so should we compare that as the same jealousy and anger we express here? So when you said that God said, I am a jealous an envious, angry, jealous and angry God, so you shouldn't have other gods than I. So can we, because sometimes you have the demoniac consciousness that try to attract the spirit soul and covered their consciousness and engage them in all kind of demoniac thing to destroy his devotees. So it doesn't that what he mean by saying I am an envious and jealous God. So it doesn't mean that we shouldn't worship his other manifestation, because he have different, he take, like I said before, like we all know from the scripture, that according to the scripture, that he take different name, different form, and he speak according to the time, the place, and the circumstance. So he knows that he will be, according to our consciousness we will worship, we will be more attracted to different form of him and whatever. So does that mean that when he said you shouldn't have other gods than I, that doesn't he speak like to about the demoniac? We should be aware about the demoniac consciousness who claim to be God, and also who like claim to be like I am your well-wisher, and that engage them, cover them, and use them as their instruments to engage them in all kind of demoniac thing. Doesn't that what he mean by that, or we shouldn't, like make us believe he's only God, like whatever. If you worship Jesus, it's Jesus alone. If you worship Krishna, it's Krishna alone. If you worship yes. So,
Yes, I think what you're saying is correct. Because Krishna has different pastimes. He can be very angry. He can be very envious also. And there are different personalities. Dhira Datta, Dhira Lalita, Dhira Prashanta. One of these personalities, there are four like this. In one of these personalities, Krishna can exhibit these qualities, because everything comes from him. But these are spiritual qualities. Nrsimhadev is very angry because he wanted to protect his devotee, but this is spiritual anger. Hanuman was very angry, but this was spiritual. And we cannot compare it to our material contaminated anger, lust. These are, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, these are gates to hell. Anger, lust, and greed. So there are different types of, there are spiritual qualities and there are material qualities. They are perverted reflection of the spiritual qualities. So whatever qualities Krishna has, we worship them. And Srila Prabhupada gives the example of Krishna stealing. He says if somebody steals in the material world, this is abominable. But Krishna stealing, this is worshipped by his devotees. Krishna ran away from the battlefield, Rancho. The devotees are in ecstasy. Because he ran away. He chose to, because it was time for Rukmini. He didn't want to deal with this stupid demon. So he has his own pastimes and he's independent. So we worship all Krishna's pastimes, except for the pastimes when Krishna, Yadu dynasty lives and Krishna is living. These are not worshipped by the devotees. They are there to bewilder the demons. So, is this okay, Mataji? That was the answer. I hope you are. Yes.
So I want to ask, where does the soul and the super soul stays in our body?
In the heart.
Which part, like?
In the heart.
In the heart and the super soul as well?
Yes.
Okay. And I want to ask one more question, that what was there before the creation of time? Was it Krishna who created time, and how did it happen in the universe?
Yes, Krishna, Janmadi Yasyataka, Krishna is the origin of everything. So time is the different explanations, the impersonal feature of the Lord. Time has to, there is time in the spiritual world, there is time in the material world. So here time in the material world works in the way it works, by destroying gradually everything. because we, the conditioned souls, we wanted to be separated from the Lord. So He had to create a place for us, which is different from the spiritual world. And this place, the material creation, is ruled by time. That means it has beginning and it will end. So time here destroys everything. Time in the spiritual world enhances Krishna's pastimes. It doesn't have this destructive function. There is time there, but it is just for fun. Here time brings pain, suffering. And it has to exist. Another explanation, time is the glance of the Lord when He glanced over the Mahatattva, the material energy, and then this glance is, anyway, it's Shambhu, Shiva, and then the living entities are injected through Krishna's glance. This is how He impregnates the material energy. We come there, here, through His glance. So there are different explanations of time. So it has a beginning with the beginning of the material creation. And
So did someone created the source of creation, like we say Krishna created this universe?
yeah,
Was someone, did they created the source of creation, or how did it happen? It's hard to understand.
yeah, it's hard to understand. You can, the creation of the universe is described in Srimad Bhagavatam, different shastras, but Bhagavatam describes it. It's very elaborate description. But the main thing is that it came into existence because we wanted to have false identity as supreme enjoyer and controller. Therefore, Krishna had to facilitate this. So He gave us this false identity, false ego it's called, and then this false ego, in contact with the three gunas, created different aspects of this material creation, just like the senses, the sense objects, the pancha mahabhuta, the gross material elements, the intelligence, etc. So the whole reason for this is our desire to be separated from the Lord. Therefore, this all happened. Therefore, time had to start working as it works here. Srila Prabhupada once, somebody asked him, why Krishna created Maya? And Prabhupada said, no, you created Maya. In a sense, not that we are the creators or Ishvara, but Krishna had to facilitate our stupid desire to be small gods. You need a false identity. If you want to play computer game, you need an avatar, right? You need to have there is a choice. You can be this or this, or so you have to choose one of those people, and you become one, so to say. And that's what we did. Only that we don't really choose, but the material energy chooses, because we may desire, but we may not deserve. So we have some desire, but according to our karma, then our bodies. Yes. Yes, bro.
Oh, sorry. Last week we had Tulsi Prabhu, God's sister. I forgot her name.
Surabi.
Yeah, she's a very serious practitioner. It was great to hear her. But I like the way she also expounds, like she was talking about different letter of different levels. Like I like how she puts it, that it's all Krishna consciousness, different levels of it, you know. So, but my question was like if somebody worships Krishna, like you said, different form of different pastime, like let's say, like you say, he's not jealous. Like, is it the same thing? I mean, like different name, different religion. You know, is it literally? It's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a weird question, beginning question, but like, is it literally the same thing? Like worshiping him in the different names, like Adonai or whatever. Is it still we still worshiping Krishna, but like, could you expand about it? You say he's not jealous. You know, like that name came. By the way, that came from Torah. That thing. You worship nobody but me. You know. So, but of course, God is God. There's only one God.
Yes, this is Srila Prabhupada's explanation. Therefore, he even said that the very name Krishna is similar to Christ.
Yeah.
So this was his approach, our approach.
But
We can-
also said like.
Let him.
But still, as we also spoke during the presentation. If we approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead with proper knowledge, then we'll get better result, because you'll have more information, more knowledge about Him, and you cannot love somebody unless you know something about Him. The more you know, there is greater chance that you fell in love, fell attraction to this person. So because we have the perfect knowledge about Krishna, we're in a better position.
But they get the same results. Like Prabhupada says, like when people came to him, he says, if you're a Christian, you could say this name. If you're this,
Yeah.
chant whatever name you have. Like, you know, if you're, I'm not saying that, of course, Krishna is the best, but I'm just saying, like I see
course.
sometimes, you know, Muslim people or whatever, as long as if somebody is serious devotional person and they surrender their whole life to God, and on the whole letter thing, like, you know, like she said, it's all different levels of Krishna consciousness. You
Yeah.
still get the same result if you call different names, if all is Krishna.
I don't think you'll get the same result. I don't think so, because even inside our tradition, there are different names of God according to the bhav, or the affection of the practitioner, of the devotee. So we have names who describe the majesty of the Lord, Paramatma, Vishvatma, etc. But you have also personal names of God, like Govinda and Krishna, and if you chant those names, you'll get high result.
So when Prabhupada said chant whatever name of God you want, like what's
Everyone approaches God according to his own level. So they have to be encouraged, these people. If they cannot right now accept the Vedic way, better they stick to their own tradition, and gradually they will advance. But it's not, they worship the same person, but it's not the same level of worship.
And then one more question. So you said the service, we all serving. You said like we all serving something. And
Yeah.
I heard somebody said too. I went to Adipodisha, the yoga student. So anyway, this was somebody was teaching there, and he says we all serving something. Like sometimes we're serving our boss, sometimes we're serving our senses.
Yes.
Like, and you mentioned today about serving, we all serving different aspects.
That-
Could you
that's-
expound a little bit on
Yeah, that's
that?
what I meant. That's exactly what I meant, that we always serve, either we serve the family, or our boss, or we serve the country, society, or we serve our low animalistic nature. We serve our senses. So we cannot say, I don't serve.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of redirecting our service to the proper object of service. That's all we have to do. And if we serve Srila Prabhupada, then we will develop taste to hear about Krishna. And this hearing about Krishna will do everything that is necessary for our spiritual advancement. So that's the thing. Serve the great devotees, then hear about Krishna, chant the holy name. If we're in contact with Krishna, then everything will be
Thank you so
positive. Yes.
And just to expand on something Pandava Prabhu is saying, just to clarify, like, the verse is talking about, we're in these verses, we're also hearing about the difference, not just between like worshiping Krishna or Ram, different avatars of Krishna, or the names of, or God as understood in different religions, but difference between worshiping God and the demigods. And so Pandava was saying, right, you can worship your senses or different things, sort of like worshiping the senses, your boss, your false ego,
False ego, yeah.
or Krishna. So but worshiping the demigods, that's not worshiping God. That's not. That's being done. That's worshiping. Well, Krishna says, actually, he says it's like worshiping me, but in the wrong way. But in the same way that worshiping your senses, like, that's also Krishna's, Maya is Krishna's energy. So the point is that if you're that this is important to understand. It's like if we're like, some of us are from an Indian background.
Yeah.
I'm not, So, I think, right? So because we don't want to mix that up, right? Like worshiping Ganesh, or like why are people doing that? Like there's some Ganesh is connected to Krishna, so in this sense they're like attracted to Krishna. But also why are they doing it? To fulfill their material desires. So Krishna is saying here, don't mix up spirit with matter. That's the most important part. So I don't think the purpose of the lesson is to get too caught up in the differences between are you a Christian or Jew or a Hare Krishna devotee, and which is better. It's more about whatever if you're this religion or that religion or no religion, can you understand the difference between spirit and matter? And if you worship God, who's the source of everything, which demigods aren't, then if you're worshiping God, that's because you want spiritual liberation, you want perfection, that's eternal. That's spiritual. Everything else is material. Sorry.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I also meant, like,
Yeah.
if somebody seriously worships God by different name, like let's say offer not worshiping to get materials things, but worshiping, like let's say I went to synagogues before and they worship by Adonai, they worship God beautifully, just like Hare Krishnas, by that name. You know, they offer food by that name. You know, like totally devote themselves by just different name. Do they get still results? Because there's different letters.
Yeah, but I just made the
Yeah.
point. I said the purpose of this lesson is not to get so caught up in the difference between worshiping God in Judaism. Yes, it's the supreme same God. It is. But the lesson is about understanding the difference between spirit and matter. And God in Judaism, if he's worshipped purely, not everyone worships purely, whether you're a Hindu or a Jew, but if you're worshiping purely, that's spirit. But the purpose of the letter is not to get caught up in the difference between what label you have. Am I a Jew, a Christian, a Hindu, a Muslim, a Hare Krishna? But it's, are you surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead?
Well, if you have a label, then a person still identifies with the body, you know. But if they
Yeah.
seriously
Right.
worships, then they're beyond the body.
Perfect.
Okay.
Really,
Iquitos.
I really like the point you made about importance to have knowledge, to see the things through knowledge, and how if you see them through knowledge, you can achieve more. And I was thinking, yes, like for example, you buy a ticket and you just enter the whatever virtual space to buy your ticket, and then you write, okay, I want ticket to America.
Mhm.
But then they ask you which place. You say, it doesn't matter, just America. Okay, then no problem, America. You can be in New York, you can be in LA, you can be in Chicago, in Seattle. It's all America. No
6
problem.
hours difference.
Yes. So it's all America, but it's not exactly the same.
Yeah.
Now we are more specific. For example, you may write, okay, I want New York. Okay, then more specific. But
JFK
where?
or
Yes,
or
Newark,
Newark or
LaGuardia, whatever. Again, so you may even be in New York, but then in New York where? You can be in Queens, you can be in Brooklyn, you can be
Upstate
in
New York.
Manhattan. Yes. So the more knowledge you have, the more precise you can be. When you have more specific knowledge about God, you can have more specific relationships with God. If your knowledge of God is more vague, you again achieve God, but it will be more vague aspect of God. So the more specific you are, the easier it will be to have specific relationships with God. It looks like that from our material experience.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
One small thing, like in Krishna consciousness, they tell us, like you said, specific, no meat, no fish, no eggs is woeful, etc. In the Bible, we can see how the Lord is so merciful. He wants all of us to come back when He comes as Lord Jesus Christ. He said, if you cannot avoid it completely, among the ocean, do not eat anything who doesn't have scale. Among the beasts, do not eat anything from the leg, like the cow, the pig. You see how he did that? So he give everybody a chance. So that's why you can see how is it gradually. And when you get to Krishna, Krishna says no meat, no fish, no eggs. So he prepare us because there is something when we eat is contaminate our consciousness. So he's so merciful. He come and he want all of us to come back. So that's why he come back, Lord Jesus Christ. He was so merciful. You see, he eat fish, he be with them, and that's why you see. So like he said, if we hear to the scripture to what he said, we can have a more clear understanding how God works.
Okay. Something else? Yes. Luis.
Thank you for the class, first of all. Very nice. I have a question. When you said, the verse says, everybody's free to worship whoever, I facilitate. So it's like a choice, right? It's like a free choice. And it's independent because if there's no choice, there's no independent. But the Krishna also says, I think in the 4th chapter, that the living entity bewildered by the false ego, it's actually under control of material nature, so it's not the doer, right? So how much independence does a person that chooses to worship Ganesh does actually have? Because it seems like it's actually the mode of passion or whatever that's actually making him make that choice. So is he free to actually make that choice, or just being carried away by material nature?
He's free to make a choice, and then he has to live with the choice. Because being under the influence of the certain combination of the gunas, that means you have made some choices in the past, and now this is your reaction. And still, even if you're in the tamas or rajas, still there is free will. The free will is always there. It might be more difficult to exercise, but it is still there, and the proof is us. We're the proof. Because we were not very high in the modes. Still, Krishna somehow or other gave us mercy, and we tried to make the proper choice. So yes, we are. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains the kartahamiti manete. It is just the combination of the gunas. But why are you under this combination of gunas? This is the result of your free choice. So it's still, you cannot avoid the responsibility. It's our responsibility. We have made the wrong choices, and now we may try to make a proper choice. Yes.
Well, that's why Vedanta Sutra is saying, otherwise Shastra will not have a meaning.
That's a very good point. Yeah.
Because what is the idea of God giving Shastra and giving you different choices in Shastra?
Different rules, imperative rules. You have to do this.
Yes.
If there is no...
if you don't have a free will to do it or not, then what's the use?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So therefore Balaji Vedibhushan says, commenting on this, he says, in certain sense, the soul is the doer. Although Bhagavad Gita says he's not the doer, the gunas are the doer, but still in a certain sense he is, otherwise, because the gunas are just mechanical, they are inert matter, they're not conscious. So in this sense, it is still.
Someone had to push the first stone from the top of the mountain.
And then avalanche
Then it's
started.
whatever it
Yeah.
is. But before that, someone started the whole
But because we are the soul, we can, at any moment, we can become Krishna conscious. Because we are the soul, we are not the mind, we are not the body, we are not the material contaminated consciousness. Yes.
So is that means that you can push the stone, and once everything is going down and it's already crazy, and you can say, stop, Hare Krishna.
Yes.
You just stay like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Well, Prabhupada said one can attain Krishna consciousness in a second. That's what he said. It just depends on the sincerity and what was the word he used? In the utmushenie. Anyway, I don't remember now how it sounds in English, but it can be done.
That's because Krishna is beyond the
Avamatra?
Attitude.
No. You weren't.
Attitude.
You weren't. Oh, okay.
Attitude.
That's because Krishna is beyond the gunas, so that's why.
And the soul is beyond the
Yeah,
gunas.
soul is-
Yes, but we know the consciousness, but it is said in the scriptures that it's a consciousness that creates.
Yes.
So sometimes we can do at the often the pure and sometimes the pure living entities, and sometimes we can contaminate ourselves with the other one.
Yeah, therefore we have to chant Hare Krishna. So, thank you very much. Shil Prabhupada ki jai. Grantha Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Gaur Premanande. So now we have Kirtan.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So we have ecstatic kirtan led